some of y'all call it, what do you feel about the parents, one of the boys said he's going to sue you and Ben Crump. Sue us for what? For saying what happened? So we've gone back that far. And that is why we're going to stand with these parents, because usually, you know, I come from Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised there. I don't come from the South. But my mother used to bring me down south to my grandmother in Dothan, Alabama. And Congressman, my grandmother told me, you see that pen over there? I said, yes. She said, that's a pen of hogs and pigs. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, always know something. If you take a brick and you throw it in that pile, the hog that hollers is the hog you hit. There's too much hollering going on in Mississippi that we haven't hit something. I can't figure out which one we hit, but we hit something. Because now they talking about lawsuits, they threatening a mother of a child, trying to get her job taken. You wouldn't be hollering if we wasn't hitting something.
This man is such a liar. First of all, no one has threatened to sue the Nolan Wells family. You've not heard any of the legal representatives for any of these young men threaten to sue her. Oh, but they've talked about suing you, Al. Oh yeah, they done talked about you and Ben and Willie D and Miss Audio Engineer Extraordinaire. I mean, there have been lots of people. It's been circulating around that who they're coming for. But the Wells family has not been the target or the object of any of these lawsuits. So you're just lying. But what he's doing, we're going to talk about the rhetorical device that Al Sharpton is using here. He's conflating a lot of disjointed facts and he's throwing them all together to try to build this grievance cake, and it's collapsing. So when he talks about, you know, there's too much hollering going on in Mississippi that we haven't hit something. And then he said, you know, well, you wouldn't be hollering if we wasn't hitting something. And I'm like, sir, what? So now the fact that somebody is threatening to sue you, not Christine or her husband, but threatening to sue you, is evidence that your allegations must have been correct. This is the brain dead, weak logic that typically comes from this side. This is the weakest logic I've ever heard. And Al knows better. He knows better, but this is what I call, this is category conflation, right? What Al is doing, he's deliberately blending two completely different categories and blending them all together. On one side, you have one category is someone protesting because you've exposed their wrongdoing. And then the other category is someone protesting because you may be falsely accusing them of something that they didn't do. Those two things are not the same thing. But Al Sharpton wants them to be the same thing because this protects the narrative that he's been curating from the beginning. His logic is basically, if you get angry when I accuse you, well, your anger proves that I was right. I told y'all these ethnic narcissists are a piece of work. They will pee on you and try to convince you that it's rain. Can you imagine somebody, they walk into your workplace this Monday, tomorrow, and they tell everybody, you know, I have questions whether Susan stole $20,000. And then they go on social media and they go on television. And then thousands of people start repeating it. And strangers, they start calling Susan's job and they start threatening her family. And then eventually, Susan says, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm calling a lawyer. And their response is, aha, see? Look at her hollering. We must have hit the right hog. I'm like, this ninja knows he is evil and retarded. But this level of low IQ argumentation, it works on his audience. It works. But you know what? We're going to expose it today. I need you guys. Do you guys understand how absurd this is? This is absurd. Your attempt to defend your reputation suddenly becomes evidence against you. So that makes it a rigged game. If you stay quiet, they'll say, well, your silence is suspicious. But if you defend yourself, your defense is suspicious. And Lord forbid if you hire an attorney, well, that's really, now y'all don't cross the line. Now there's something is up. That's really suspicious. If your attorney then threatens litigation because you've been reckless with your words, well, apparently now you're a hog. Y'all, this is what I mean. When I said, one, I told y'all these blacks was dishonest. They're not honest. And I told y'all this entire thing is being constructed so that the narrative can never lose. No matter which way, which direction they go in, the narrative will never lose. And they think it's Trump type. They think we got this sealed. If we could just keep stalling till November. We just got to drag this out. Al Sharpton is such a weasel with this. This man is evil and he is wicked, and he is going to have to give an account for all of the harm and all of the damage that he has and is continuing to cause. Because notice what he's doing. Y'all, he is not producing evidence that Warren or Jax or Morgan or anybody else on that daggone island committed a crime. He's not furnished any evidence of that. All he's doing is using their reaction to the accusations as a substitute for evidence. Did you see what he did there? This is what the ethnic narcissist does this. They project, they will gaslight, they will accuse. Those are completely different categories, but they will conflate them all together. Somebody saying, y'all are destroying my reputation, so now I'm going to hold you legally accountable. That does not mean, Reverend Al Sharpton, congratulations that you've solved the case. That's not how evidence works. That's not how logic works. And thank God that is not how our justice system works either. And it's not supposed to work that way, because by Sharpton's standard, anybody who vigorously denies an accusation has just proven the accusation. Somebody make that make sense. Does that make sense?
Flag on the plate.
No, it does not. It does not. I want you guys, we're going to look at some more clips, but before we do that, have you guys ever heard of the acronym DARVO? DARVO. I know y'all know I've been talking about narcissism a lot. Y'all, when I say I've studied this, if there was a degree program, I'd have a PhD in it by now. DARVO is an acronym that stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It's what narcissists do, but it describes this pattern where a person confronted about possible wrongdoing or harmful conduct, this is how they respond. They deny the conduct, or they'll minimize responsibility. Then they'll attack, that's the A, attack the person that's challenging them, and then reversing victim and offender. They'll portray themselves as the victim while casting the person who's seeking accountability as the aggressor. DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. It's a rhetorical framework that Al Sharpton uses. Y'all, the man is a master at it. I got to give it to him, okay? I mean, of all the things to be good at, he is good at this DARVO rhetorical framework. And if you apply it to this press conference, you'll see it. Deny. First, he'll go, we're not accusing anyone. We're just asking questions. You know, we haven't predetermined anything. That's the plausible deniability. They've been doing that. But then here comes the attack. The people threatening defamation litigation, they now become people who are supposedly trying to silence them, silence the journalists, and they're trying to intimidate us, and they don't want us to get to the truth. They're trying to sue the mama, which is not true. It's not true. Sharpton he mocks the fact that these families are trying to defend themselves against his attacks by saying the hogs are hollering. He uses this hog analogy. I'm like, the man is talented. He evil, but he's talented. Then you have the reverse victim and offender. Think about it. These young men and their families are saying, listen, you have caused so much harm. Our reputations are being damaged. We can't come and go and just operate and do commerce freely. We're getting death threats. Our whole lives have been turned upside down. You have damaged us. And so because you've damaged us, we're seeking legal accountability. Al Sharpton and Ben Crump, they then reposition themselves as the people who are being victimized because somebody wants to sue them for their reckless words. That's the reversal. Notice the reversal here. The families say, you've damaged our son's reputations. Oh, we're coming for you. We intend to hold you and others accountable. And suddenly, Sharpton and Ben Crump, now they're the victim. We didn't do nothing. They're trying to silence us. They're going to intimidate us. Y'all saw it. It is a classic rhetorical reversal. The people demanding accountability are now recast as the aggressors. I'm like, Al and Ben were throwing bricks for weeks. Now they're upset because somebody called an attorney. I'm telling y'all, these ethnic narcissists, these chronic victims, they can never be trusted. This whole concept of ethnic narcissism that I've been talking about, I'll define it for you briefly. We're dealing with group level, like psychological, it's this psychological orientation in which the grievance and perceived, it don't have to be real, perceived disrespect and the demanding, we want to be seen, demanding recognition, right? We want to be seen and we don't feel like we're being heard and we're not represented, right? And then defense of being in the group. All of those things become central to their identity. And what makes this ethnic grievance, it's the political aspect of it. It's useful, y'all. This is so useful is because the narrative is designed to be unfalsifiable. So if you don't respond to the accusation, your silence is viewed as suspicious. But then if you defend yourself, well, why are you being defensive? Lord forbid if you go hire a lawyer, now you're intimidating the blacks. You're intimidating black people. How dare you? Oh, your white privilege is showing, right? But then if you sue because you believe with evidence, actual defamatory statements that people have made, Al Sharpton will say, see, the hog is hollering. So basically, heads, they win. Tails, you're a racist. And then you get Ben Crump. Ben Crump will come in and he'll do the cleanup operation.
Ask for this. All they want is what happened to their son.
And I'll simply say this because that question has come up and I released a statement and I want to be clear about it. We defend the First Amendment rights of content creators reporting on Nolan Wells' case. We stand with content creators, independent journalists, and citizens who are responsibly reporting on the Nolan Wells case and asking legitimate questions in pursuit of truth and accountability. The First Amendment protects robust public discussion on matters of public concern, and those protections are not reserved just for traditional media. We are deeply concerned when cease and desist letters, threatened lawsuits, or other legal pressure become tools to intimidate or silence lawful scrutiny. There is an
no, Ben.
difference between
Nobody's trying to intimidate you. They're coming for you. No. This is not a game. Like, they're just not like, oh, we're just gonna pull this out to scare them and see what that does. No, nah, ninja. Y'all mess with the wrong town. Y'all should have left these people alone. They weren't bothering nobody. They cooperated with the investigation. These people loved Nolan, supported Nolan. He's been over their house. He's eating their food, slept in their bed. And y'all had the audacity to now cry victim because litigation has been threatened. And you know that they know they are in deep doo-doo. Because Ben, he's not speaking off the cuff here. He's like, well, hold on. Let me get my prepared statement. I've been practicing this all week. We stand with content creators and independent journalists, and important difference between our First Amendment rights and getting to the truth. He sat here. He's reading this prepared statement because he has to. Because now he's trying to cover his behind, but it's too late. It is too late. Y'all thought these white folks was going to bow the knee and cut you a check. You thought that you were going to come down there, run roughshod through their town, accuse them, destroy their lives, and they were just going to ride off in the sunset while you moved on to the next victim. But see, that's not happening. Because now they got the big dogs. They are retaining the big heavy hitters to come after you because you need to be held accountable. So I find this statement is so interesting that he's reading because for weeks, the public has been watching these jokers hurl accusations and allegations and insinuations and all of these theories and suspicions swirling around these young men. And now that the attorneys representing these families are saying, oh, okay, we've had enough. We're not playing games with y'all anymore. Now that there's talk of defamation litigation, suddenly everybody wants to retreat behind, we was just asking questions, Nolan died and we just want to know what happened to him. No, you don't. You were never interested in the truth. You brought the race narrative into the discussion. You brought it into the discussion because you knew it would rile up the blacks. This is a part of your 2026 midterm Democrat election interference strategy. And now you're trying to hide behind we just want to know what had happened to Nolan Wells. No, you don't. You constructed an entire insinuation around identifiable human beings. These are real people. They have real lives. And these people will never be the same after this. You have no idea what they have gone through, are going through, and continue to go through because of your reckless mouth. All of your questions. You've been hiding behind a question with in all of these statements, I should say. They've really been statements hiding behind a question mark. A question mark is not holy water. You can't just throw it and sprinkle a little punctuation on an accusation and then magically you've cleansed yourself of responsibility. That is not how this works. What they were doing, well, did Warren do something to Nolan? What were the boys hiding something? Somebody knows something. 3 white boys and 1 black boy. Why did they leave him? Is this another Mississippi racial killing? Those questions don't exist in a vacuum when they're repeatedly placed. See, they put all of this whole narrative behind racial imagery. Well, you know, this is Mississippi. You know, they start bringing up historical lynchings. Then they start name dropping all of their racial hoax Hall of Famers. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Mississippi racism, say his name, a whole lot of fundraising. And then you throw the national political organizing behind it. The March on Washington, we got to take the House back. You know, and if we get the House back, then we can get Hakeem Jeffries, you know, can really get things going. And maybe we can get to the bottom of this, knowing that that is not how this works. But here's what they do know that works. They know that context matters. They know that all this repetition matters. They know the way you frame this matters. But more importantly than any of that, you guys, people matter. You're watching a mind virus. These people are brainwashing the public, and they think this is a game. They think that when they're done, they don't care about the lives that they destroy. These are not characters in some Netflix mystery. These are real young men, real families who had a reputation. People's careers are on the line. This is a real community. People are receiving real threats against their life. Real parents are watching strangers on the internet speculate that their sons may have had something to do with another young man's death. And we have a young man that they legitimately loved Nolan, cared for him, spent time with him. They can't even mourn. Because when you have the platform that Ben Crump and Al Sharpton have, they think that you don't get to act like you're sitting around a kitchen table with three friends saying, you know, I wonder what happened. You don't get to do that. You're playing with people's lives. They know exactly what happens when you inject an insinuation into the bloodstream of national media. You get this circus we've been watching for over a month. They know how quickly people will turn questions into conclusions. They know this. They know how quickly suspicion becomes accusation. They know how quickly accusation becomes harassment. These people have been harassed. So this is why he wants to give this grandiose ethnic narcissistic speech about why the First Amendment is so important to him now. This First Amendment speech is just so rich to me. But that's the point. These evil people are accomplishing exactly what they set out to do. Y'all, this was their goal all along. I have said these boys are casualties in their political ploy for power. They are. You're watching the Iron Triangle at work. You got the black fake preacher, the black fake civil rights worker, and Lucy McBath was around here somewhere. She the black politician. That Iron Triangle works in cahoots with each other to keep the black community beholden to the Democrat Party. And this is just one of many tools in their toolbox that they use. And it just so happens that these young men are casualties in that war. And they don't care that they get harmed in the process. They don't care. They do not care. The grip of the Congressional Black Caucus, I told y'all, it's getting weaker. People are waking up. We see that this whole time, that big bag boogeyman that they tried to tell us was the white man, we know it's always been them. It's always been these jokers right here. Just like Jesus, when he had to point out the Pharisees, how they were the problem the whole time, it's these Negroes right here. They're the ones that have been subjugating your communities. They're the ones that have been pumping poison into your communities, celebrating debauchery and degeneracy, encouraging you to kill your babies advocating for illegals to move into your communities, advocating for, well, you know, the rainbow community. That would be good. You know, every love is love, right? There's so many harmful things that every member of the Congressional Black Caucus, someone needs to ask, why are they all a part of the Equality Caucus? You're like, what does Congressional Black Congress people have to do with the Equality Caucus? The Equality Caucus is the caucus for the element of peas, if you didn't know. The rainbow people. See, the Congressional Black Caucus, they take a lot of money from the elemental peas. And so since the elemental peas, they're like, look, if we're going to give you money, you will advocate for us and our rights and what we want. And so the elemental peas, those rights trump whatever rights they claim to be fighting for blacks. I don't even understand why we have a Congressional Black Caucus. They don't do anything but keep you subjugated, dependent on the government, believing you are a victim, and giving you symbolism over substance. They make these ethnically narcissistic, grandiose speeches to make you think that they're doing something. They take your money. Oh yeah, they take your money, but they can't explain why your roads are still crumbling. They can't explain why there are more people dependent on the government than working gainful employment in their district. They can't explain to you why the schools are bad and why they actively advocate against school choice, because your kid has to stay in a failing school. You can't make a decision for what's best for your kid. It's about the group. If your kid is failing, well, all the kids have to fail, because if we give you school choice, then it means your kid will have the opportunity to better himself. Well, then what about the kids whose parents don't care about them? You are supposed to sacrifice what's best for you for the collective. These are a bunch of cultural Marxists who they live like capitalists, but they want you to function like a communist. I'm telling you, this whole First Amendment speech, you have the right to speak freely, but your right to speak doesn't always make your speech wise. It doesn't make what you say true. It doesn't make what you say responsible. And it certainly doesn't mean that nobody else gets to respond. These people want to hide behind the First Amendment, but the First Amendment is not some magic force field, right? You invoke it, and then Ben Crump gets to stand behind a microphone and imply whatever he wants, and everybody else has to sit quietly because he uttered the words, well, you know, free speech, my First Amendment rights. Well, you're right. The Boys' family, they've got speech too. And they've got attorneys, like big, powerful ones who are not playing with you. And if you believe that people have crossed the line from questions into damaging factual allegations, then these people have every right to challenge that through lawful means, which they are. Did I forget to tell you that they coming for you, Ben? Yeah, you're going to have some sleepless nights. These people are not playing with you. And that's not a threat. Like, that's real. That's what accountability looks like. Something this group has never been subject to. Al Sharpton has been doing this since the days of Tawana Brawley. And after every racial hoax, he gets on his funky little donkey and he rides off into the sunset to the next victim. And he never course corrects. He never corrects the record. He never admits, I was wrong. I was wrong as two left shoes. I caused a Bensonhurst to just fall apart in the riots. And they love the chaos because the ethnic narcissist lives and thrives in chaos. These are dark people who are evil. This is just another little trick that they're pulling. They are trying with this whole invoking of the First Amendment to conflate accountability with intimidation. Nobody's intimidating you. You're being held accountable. Again, those are two different categories. A frivolous lawsuit designed purely to scare somebody into silence, yes, that's different. That can raise some serious free speech concerns. But saying that, listen, you falsely accused me of being involved in a death, and I wasn't, and now I intend to defend my name. That's not an attack on journalism. Okay, you don't get to declare yourself a journalist and then call every allegation a question and then pronounce yourself, oh, I'm immune from the consequences because of the First Amendment. That's how it works. Here's what makes this whole little canned speech even more ridiculous. I don't know if y'all heard it, but let me see if we can play it again. Let's play it again.
Robust public discussion on matters of public concern, and those protections are not reserved just for traditional media. We are deeply concerned when cease and desist letters, threatened lawsuits, or other legal pressure become tools to intimidate or silence lawful scrutiny. There is an important difference between knowingly spreading false information and asking questions.
Yeah, well, you didn't just ask questions. That man just said there is an important difference between knowingly spreading false information and asking questions. Correct. Thank you, Ben. We agree. Thank you for saying it out loud. So now let's determine which one of those actually happened. Because we can look at the statements. Let's go ahead and look at your Facebook posts. Let's look at all of the interviews. Remember, you was whisking this family all around the country right after Nolan passed away. Let's look at the interviews. Let's look at who said what. Let's look at whether the claims that were they presented as established fact? Let's look at whether people reached things or repeated things after they were told they were false and they did it anyway. So you're right. Let's look at the evidence because that's what we have the courts for. That's what we have the courts for. But you can't have it both ways. You cannot simultaneously say that there's a difference between false information and legitimate questions and then act offended, like pearl clutching offended that somebody wants a legal forum to determine whether you cross that line. So pick a struggle, pimpin'. You need to pick a lane and stay there. Because Al Sharpton's hog analogy makes the contradiction even worse. Listen, if your position is truly, we're only asking neutral questions, then why does somebody threatening to sue you suddenly become evidence that you've hit something? Do you see the game that these people are playing? On one hand, we're not accusing anybody. And then on the other hand, well, look how defensive they are. Well, we must be on to something. That is weasel, ethnic, narcissistic logic. I can't stand these people, y'all. I'm sorry. According to their logic, it literally allows you to accuse without admitting that you're accusing. How did they get away with this? It allows you to insinuate without owning the insinuation. But I told you, the chronic victim can never be trusted. So they're never going to admit wrong. The narcissist is never wrong. First of all, the narcissist believes that they're morally superior to you anyway. They believe they're perfect. And it would be too much of a blow and a narcissistic injury for the ethnic narcissist to say, you know what, my bad. We were off on this one and we screwed up and we need to retract what we said. We were really, really wrong. They can't do that. No. The ethnic narcissist can never admit that they're wrong because they avoid accountability. Their egos are too fragile. One, they're too much of a coward. They'll never admit that they're wrong. So they play this game of constant projection. 9 times out of 10, whatever they're accusing you of, it's what they're doing. It's what these are some evil Machiavellian style people. You have to rid them out of your life. Once you figure out what they're doing, you got to get rid of them. You got to cut them loose. You got to cut them loose because they're opportunists. They are out for self, their pockets, their positions of power. And the sad part about this is Christine, she's a willing participant, but at the end of all of this, she's going to be the victim. Now, she's not innocent of this, right? She's not without her own accountability. Make no mistake about that. I don't know, all these other content creators, listen, I give grace to the fact that she's mourning, but there is a level of complicity in this that she's going to have to own. This woman's smart. She strikes me as a smart woman. She sees the game that these people are playing. And right now she's blinded by her own selfish ambition to the point that she can't even back away and say, this is wrong. These people are using me. They're exploiting my son's death. And whatever I think I'm going to get out of this at the end, is it really worth it? Will I really be able to sleep at night? Those are questions that I'd have for her.